Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope that you had a fantastic Thanksgiving if you're from the States. I wanted to pop on here this morning and I wanted to begin to share something that many people are going through right now. You may have already gone through a level of this. You may just be beginning to go through it, but I had 4 people reach out to me today to and when usually one or more people reach out, it's usually something that the collective is going through. And what that is a deeper transformation process that we, as sons and daughters of God, as the chosen ones, light workers, people that are growing and maturing in Christ likeness, begin to go through. Okay. And this process can be very confusing. It can be very painful. It can be very disillusioning when we are tethered to religious doctrines and religious understandings about the nature of reality, when we're perceiving things in a certain way. Our entire life can feel like we're going through a Job type experience or a Joseph type experience. We're often given these big prophetic words, or we have this big dream or this big ministry or this big business or this big health goal or this big relationship goal, or just some purpose that we have attached to in our life. And we think that we need that thing. Okay. So when we begin to come into the kingdom of God, when we, get into church and we give our life to Jesus, or we surrender our life to a higher power, to God, we don't realize this, but we're transferred out of the ways that the world did things into a new kingdom. Okay. The Bible actually says you've been transferred out of the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of light. Now, there's a tangible reality to this that people don't know, because when we, give our life to Jesus in religion or in church, we kind of just stay infants. We stay at a certain level of awareness, a certain level of consciousness, and I love and I honor that expression. It has helped me. I'm not speaking bad about it. Just like I wouldn't say a grade 3 person in grade 3 is an idiot and dumb because they don't have a grade 6 education yet. It's strictly maturity level in consciousness. So what I'm talking about here is a transformation process that is spiritual in nature, that is hard to quantify, that is very confusing, and it has the potential to really disillusion us on our journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this panned out for me in my life and hopefully bring some clarity, because in this time in the season, there's wave after wave of people are starting to wake up. People are coming out of religion, out of separation, out of fear-based constructs, which are all anchored in a false self version of us that we think that we are. And that's why it's so real, because we haven't embodied that higher nature yet. We haven't gone through the cross into death. We haven't, and then resurrected into new life. We're that caterpillar that goes through the chrysalis, goes through the cocoon, and it needs to dissolve in order to become the butterfly. But there's this stage, this uncertain stage in the middle, when we're used to being that caterpillar, that we go, holy shit, what the hell is going on? Why is everything in my life breaking down? And we have a ton of fear come up. And we have a ton of our performance-based patterns come up. We have a lot of uncertainty that comes up. We have guilt, shame, condemnation. Romans 12:2 says that we have been patterned and programmed by the world. This is methylene blue. If you have not heard about methylene blue, I'd look into it. It's an amazing compound. It's a nootropic, clarity for the brain. It increases mitochondrial function. It increases ATP production. It's an electron donor. So our mitochondria run on electrons, and in our mitochondria, it spins these electrons really fast around these tracks. And sometimes the electrons come off, especially as we get older in age. And so when the electrons come off, the electrons are energy, and we lose energy essentially. So methylene blue comes in like a carrier molecule, like a little cart, into the electron transport chain, and it begins to take those electrons that fell off the track and put them back into the mitochondria. So you have better brain function, better energy production in your brain, better energy production in your heart, better energy production in your body. It's an anti-aging compound that promotes autophagy, which is cleaning the body. So now that that's out of the way, what we're talking about is actually the same thing. It's about cleansing the body. It's about cleansing the false self, the patterns and programs of the past. Okay, so the Bible says that do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds. But the problem is that we haven't understood in Christianity what this process has been about. We've, asked Jesus into our life, and then we've worshiped the hell out of the door without actually going through the same process that he said, follow me. Worshiping him isn't bad. If that's the level of awareness that you're at, that's fine. But when you walk through the door, there's a process. He said, anyone who comes after me must deny self. Okay, he's talking about denying the false separate self, denying the caterpillar that we thought that we were. Okay, and then coming through the chrysalis, picking up your cross, dissolving as that caterpillar, and following him into a new way. Okay, the way, capital W way, the truth, true reality, living as the true Christ self, and the life, the tree of life optic. Okay, so these words are pointing to something. These words are pointing to an experiential reality that we're going to get into here. Okay, so what is this all about? So we were all raised with patterns and programs in the world. Okay, so personally, I was raised with very dense performance-based patterns. I was praised based on my grades. If I did good in school, if I did good in running, if I did good in sports, I got rewarded. I got medals. I got compensated financially. And if I failed, then I got told I wasn't good enough. I'm an idiot. I got things taken away from me. So everything was created in this performance-based mentality. Okay, so work hard, play hard. You're only as good as your last job. Like deep performance-based patterning when I was a kid. Okay, and so that is pretty common in the world, in the human condition. Am I saying competition is bad? No. But what I am saying is that there's a higher way when we come into the kingdom, when we are chosen ones, when we are growing and maturing in Christ's likeness, where we come out of a performance-based patterning. Okay, but guess what? If we don't realize that we have been trying to build our life based off that performance-based patterning, based off that caterpillar, what's a caterpillar? A caterpillar is like a glorified slug. Okay, so it's walking on the ground and it just eats leaves and eats trees and it destroys the environment that it's in. It's unable to do much. So it has to go through, it is the false nature. It's false isn't even the right word because it's part of the blueprint. So when we come into earth, we get a veil of forgetfulness and we forget that we're actually a butterfly. We forget that we're a multidimensional spiritual being. And we think that we're this human character. We think that we're this flesh body trapped in time, and this body picks up the patterns and programs that our mom and dad give us, that religion gives us, that schooling system gives us. Okay, and we get patterned after a certain kind. Okay, just like Adam named the animals, he named. What's a name? A name is a nature and an essence. It comes from a vibration. Okay, when Father spoke over Jesus after he was baptized in the waters, he came out, he said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. It's showing us that when we begin to get patterns, not by an external God, but because we're one with God, we are the creators who pattern our biology, who pattern our bodies into the higher truth that always has been. That's what to be born again is, to remember our divine origin. Okay? And so I'm not mad at anybody here, but I want people to understand the process that we go through. So in my own life, I was very performance-based. I was very, very focused on building a business. I needed to have this health coaching business a certain way. And I really wanted to take over actually a family business. And I went to school and I took construction engineering technology. And then I went to business, took it in university and took accelerated management studies. And I was ready to take over this family business. And I was striving really hard to do it. And It wasn't the path. So here's the thing. When we begin to go after something, if it's not built upon the foundation of our true Christ self, and we're just doing it in order to be seen, to fulfill a performance-based pattern, to do something to be seen and loved in the eyes of mom and dad, or to get accolades from a community or something like that, if you're a chosen one and you're on the spiritual path of becoming more Christ likeness, you're never going to succeed as the caterpillar. You understand? God will not allow you to continue to live and move and have your doing, not being, because in the spirit we live and move and have our being, but as the caterpillar, we're living in a performance-based pattern, and we flop back between being a victim because our programming is telling us we're unworthy, we're not good enough, we're not good looking enough, we're not smart enough, we're not making enough money, we're unlovable. Whatever the pattern is for you, fill in the blank. That's the patterns in the programs that need to go to the cross. That's the body of sin that Paul was talking about in Romans 6 that goes, who is going to deliver me from this body of sin? What is sin? Sin is separation consciousness. Our parents were separate in their consciousness. Most of our pastors were separate in their consciousness. Most of the world is separate in their consciousness. They're not aware of the true Christ self, the God self that we're one with. Therefore, they patterned us after the word that they received. And sin was passed down from generation to generation to generation, all the way back to Adam, because nobody remembered their divine origin. Okay? So all of the patterns and programs that are in you, that you're trying to build your empire, or you're trying to make your life happen, or you're trying to be the best, or do whatever it is that you're trying to do in your life right now, is actually a result coming from a faulty foundation of sand. And God says, you can't build your house on the sand. You can't build your house on the sand. You have to build your house on the rock. Okay? So this is an eternal foundation. Okay? Jesus said, I will build my church on the rock. Okay? The church isn't a building. The church is you and me, that is being built upon an eternal place, which is oneness with Christ, or Christ consciousness. Okay? That's what Jesus was talking about. On this rock of being the Christ, I will build my church. That's the revelation. So the revelation is our true self, our divine nature. And when we begin to build on that firm foundation, then all of a sudden, everything that we wanted as the caterpillar begins to manifest in our life. And we begin to have that health coaching business that I really wanted. And I begin to make money that I really wanted. And I begin to be seen and loved by people that I was trying to get approved by before. And I begin to come into a much higher level of consciousness and awareness where I'm no longer attached to things working out. And if they don't work out, I'm still at peace. Do I want abundance? Do I want love? Do I want to have an amazing life? Absolutely, but not at the expense of leaving my nature. I'm no longer attached to the ways of the caterpillar because I've gone through the cross, the death, burial process into resurrection life, and learning to live in an ascended place, but on earth embodied. Okay? And so during this process, it's confusing as hell. During this process, it's painful as shit. During this process, it will feel like everything that you've worked for, everybody that you know perhaps is rejecting you. You're losing everything. Your entire life was a big waste of time. The sky god never came through for you. God is resisting me. This is extreme disillusionment that sons and daughters of God go through in this time, in this season, when they're coming out of caterpillar into butterfly, when they're going through the cocoon. So how do we get there? We need to rest. There's only one way through the door to life, and it's rest. It's be still and know the I am presence that we are one with. See, the carnal mind operating system, the ways of the caterpillar have to die and completely dissolve. Okay? So when I started to go through this process back in 2018, 2019, I was in the dark night of the soul. People were telling me I was demon possessed. I just needed to read my Bible and pray more. And they were encouraging me to do the best that they know to do, because they didn't understand the deeper transformation process by which I was going through. Okay? And so I got good advice from people, but they were just perpetuating the old caterpillar ways of do more, read more, be more, pray more. I'm praying in tongues 7 hours a day. I'm reading my Bible 2 hours a day. I'm sitting in contemplative, soaking presence multiple hours a day. What more can I do? Okay, so this is the stage where we spin our tires until they fall off, where we work and work and work until we break down, till we have a health concern in the body, till we get so disillusioned that we give up on Christianity, that we give up on life, that we give up on God, that we give up on everyone else. I started to manifest dissociative panic attacks and I couldn't leave my house. Okay, I was being rejected by some of the main people in my life that I knew and loved because I thought I was demon possessed. Okay, I lacked true knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So I want to encourage you today that if you're going through this time where you're confused, if you're really struggling, if you're not sure what the hell is going on in your life, why your business isn't working out, why your mind isn't right, why your emotional states are so up and down, why you have why you're disillusioned and the promises of God aren't fulfilled in your life and aren't coming to pass, why you're having relational breakdowns or financial issues or whatever it is that you're going through in this crucible moment, realize that it's all a divine setup for you to level up. That every setback that you think in your life is happening right now is actually to propel you, to launch you into your true self. It's the caterpillar's breaking down. You should rejoice. Begin to rejoice. Okay. And so during this time for me, I was striving so much. I never got the memo. God was like, lay down your business, lay down your ministry. I laid down my ministry and then I'm like, great, I'm just going to focus on business. I guess I'm supposed to do business. And then my business did not work out and it broke down. Then I had a freak spinal cord injury. I was in excruciating sciatica pain for 4 months straight. And I really got to feel the depths of what pain that you can't do anything about goes to. I got to experience mental, emotional, and physical pain at a level that I wish upon nobody, but I know that it's not just my story. Okay? It's not poor me. Because that old caterpillar needed that crucible of hell for me to experience the depth of separation consciousness, that I could never prove my way there, I could never perform my way there, I could never earn my way into my true self. So all of that needed to die. And depending upon how strong your ego is, how strong your patterning from your childhood is, how strong the false self constructs are that you got, is going to determine how deep your process needs to be. Some people can get through this a lot easier. I wasn't one of them. I fought tooth and nail to the very end. I was disillusioned. I was angry at God. I cursed the sky god out every day. I lost everything. Okay? And so just know, if you're on this path, you're on the way, and to rejoice and be happy about it. And I began to get the memo, and I began to thank God. Thank you for this pain in my body, God. Thank you that my business failed. Thank you that everything I've done up to this point was meaningless in a sense. Even though it wasn't all meaningless, we still learned skills. We still learned intellectual knowledge. We still used blueprints. And God, on the other side of your cross moment, is going to resurrect everything that you thought you needed to, everything that you need to let go of will be resurrected in better form and fashion in the future, because you'll be building on the rock of your Christ self, of your divine nature. You'll be building from the eternal kingdom, and you'll begin to express something into the earth that eye has not seen and ear has not heard, that is multidimensional beyond what everybody else in your industry is trying to do. You weren't meant to be a follower sheep. You were meant to be a limitless, unique, authentic expression of who you are. Okay? You were never meant to fit the mold. God leaves the 99 to get the one. The 99 are in the herd over here. You're the one that's off doing some crazy shit. And God's like, yo, I'm coming to get you, to show you who you are, so that you can come back and inform the 99 of what it's like to be separate, of what it's like to go through the crushing process, of what it's like to go through the Job experience, of what it's like to go through hell. Whew! You're in good hands. You're on the potter's wheel. You're being fashioned and molded by the divine nature, by life. Even your mess is perfect, but it helps to create context of what the hell is going on in this journey. You're moving from false self to true self. You're moving from sin nature to divine nature. You're moving from flesh to spirit. You're moving from caterpillar to butterfly. You're moving from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and performance-based consciousness into the tree of life, into rest, into learning how to be still and know the I am in you, and let the I am presence begin to inform the external reality and repattern your biology from a heavenly realm. Okay? You're more powerful than you think. You're more powerful than you know. But that power is not obtainable as the caterpillar. So we need to repattern our minds. We need to repattern our bodies. Okay? Because our bodies are water, and water holds frequency. And your emotions are energy in motions. They're frequency. So the things that you think and the things that you feel create your state of being. And that state of being patterns your body, and it's going to be the reality that you're seeing. We co-create everything. So as the caterpillar, we're trying to create a business based off a performance-based mentality that we got from mom and dad in order to be seen by them. So we're all of a sudden working out of lack and fear and unworthiness. So we're projecting from our hearts and minds lack, fear, unworthiness, striving into the quantum fields. And God's going, you're going to get more lack, more striving, more breakdowns, more setbacks. Because we're going to go around that mountain in the wilderness, just like the Israelites, for 40 years, breaking down until we're ready to embody a higher living way. For the mature sons and daughters of God are led by the Spirit. Led by the Spirit of God. Led by the Spirit. Image of God in the mirror. Ooh, yeah. Thought he was drunk? Not even near it. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Okay, we're being led by the Spirit. Led by the Spirit. Okay, it's a different operating system. Being led by the Spirit is incomprehensible to the carnal mind operating system, to the ego mind identity. It's incompatible. That's why we have to go beyond the mind. We have to repent, return to the high place, which is actually the deep place in the heart, deep calling unto deep. Okay, that's why we need to strive to enter rest. Because it's in the rest where our God self, not the separate God, begins to flourish, and we move into the capital S self, and we begin to realize with eyes that see, with the real eyes of our heart. Paul prayed that I pray the eyes of your heart be enlightened so that you would know some shit, so that you would know the reality of the truth that you're called to. Okay? This is the knowledge and the wisdom that we gain, and we no longer perish. The reason why we're perishing is because we're trying to live as the caterpillar accomplishing shit. It's not the truth. Never has been the truth. We need to step up and into the heart space, but first we have to be still and know, because the carnal mind operating system, all the patterns of unworthiness, fear, frustration, are the things that are perpetuating everything that you're trying to do. They're the way that you're engaging your relationships. They're the way that you're building your ministry or your business or your network or your platform or whatever it is. And it's not from a place of peace and rest. So I tried to do my book multiple years before this year. This year, I wrote it in 1 year. I was trying to write this book for 3 years. And I was so attached to getting it out there because I needed to be an author. My book is right at the very end. This is how free I am in it. And I'm really excited to get it out there. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But if I, for some reason, like, if God was like, yo, don't do it, or my spirit just led me, after all that work, this has been my main project this year, I would not put it out. Why? Because I'm still at peace. I don't need to be an author. Do I want to be one? Yeah. Do I believe it's part of my destiny and my blueprint and my scroll? Yeah. Does it feel beautiful in my heart to help people and help people through writing? Yeah. Do I love writing? Yeah. It's one of my highest passions. But you understand what I'm saying? Even if it doesn't happen, I'm still at peace. I'm still at peace. I'm not attached to an outcome in order to prove myself. I'm not attached to an outcome in order to be somebody. Because I already am that which I am. Okay? I'm already a partaker of the divine nature. I'm already one with God, with the Father. The divine source that we are, we're one with. We're all the body of God. Okay? And the carnal mind operating system, even though I intellectually say these words, I have half my awareness on my heart right now that is knowing this reality that I speak from. Okay, I'm not just intellectualizing and being like, yo, we're one with God, bro. Like, this is cool. No. We have to go through the cross. We have to go through the crucible so that the carnal mind operating system, the separation consciousness begins to break down. And all of a sudden we be still and know. We actually know through intimate knowledge, God, the Christ self that we are. And then from that place, we begin to move into a completely new realm, a completely new vibration, a completely new optic for the nature of reality. And everything changes. Everything changes. Anybody who's in Christ is a new creation. The old is gone, the new is come. It's not just believing in that. Okay, if we're in elementary school, believing in it's a good step. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's the deal. We need to embody it and get on the way. So we need to be still and know and allow the dissolving of all the ego mind identity constructs and learn to embody the awareness of Christ within us. And then in that presence, then in that bliss, then in that peace, then in that love, then in that power, we bring the high vibration of love back to that fear pattern that's trying to make us prove ourselves in performance or we're not good enough. And that perfect love that we're embodying begins to vibrate and cast out that fear in our body. And we begin to face it. Okay, we begin to face it and we go, fear, I see you. You're allowed in my body. Enemy of fear, I'm not going to resist you anymore. That's what Jesus said. He said, when your enemies come to fight you, punches you in the face, turn the other cheek. If somebody comes to take your coat, give them your tunic too. Why? Don't resist your enemies, because what you resist persists. And so in the old way, the butterfly, the caterpillar way, we have these enemies of fear and unworthiness come up and we go, oh shit. And then we act from them, which is a form of resistance. We're not able to sit with them and host a container and bring love to them because we think that we're the fear. We think that we're the unworthiness. We think that we're the hopelessness. We think that we're the depression. We think that we are the poverty. And so then we try to perform ourselves out of the bullshit. But that's the false self. It's not who we are. So that whole optic operating system, carnal mind identity needs to die. Shoo. And then we embrace a higher way. The heart space of divine embrace, the way of the butterfly. And we begin to realize that I don't need to act from that fear pattern anymore. I need to love that fear pattern. We hammer our sword into a plowshare. We're no longer fighting and proving and performing from that lower vibrational realm, but we're bringing the plowshare and digging the rocks and the weeds out of our heart by way of realizing that we're one with Christ and using our awareness that we are one with the divine nature and bringing that in to our body and repatterning the waters of our body and restructuring the frequencies of this temple. I will rebuild the temple in 3 days, Jesus said. What's 3 days? Death, burial, resurrection, ascension. Boom. Jesus is saying, I will rebuild, I will repattern your temple if you would just die. I will repattern and restructure your body, your operating system, your optic, the way that you see, the way that you live, the way that you move, into a butterfly. If you will just allow yourself to die. If you will stop resurrecting the dead old self that's rooted in fear, frustration. Okay, this is what the Hebrews is talking about when it says we need to lay aside the elementary teachings of Christ, the doctrine of laying on of hands, of baptisms, of eternal conscious torment, of faith towards a separate God, of of resurrection of the dead. Why are these all elementary teachings? Because when you embody union and oneness with Christ, there's no more separation consciousness. You don't need to have faith anymore because you are the faith that you were searching for. You don't need to lay your hands on someone anymore because in your heart you can begin to release a vibration and heal people from a distance. Your field begins to be the vibration that is healing people. Thank you, God. This is what Jesus modeled, man. He was the Christ. As he is, so are you in this world. Okay? No more baptism because we're actually immersed in God. So we don't need to dunk in water anymore because we've repatterned our biology to a higher living way. Okay? Eternal conscious torment falls away. Eternity. We begin to realize that God's love is all there is. Okay? So all these elementary teachings are the false self trying to understand the Christ way. But that operating system needs to die, and then we enter into oneness, and we begin to realize that we're co-creators with Christ, that we're seated in heavenly places, that we're above every principality and power, every thought structure and mental realm of the world that has been informing us of a false lower reality. And we untether from these false lower realities that we're programmed with in our childhood, and we come into something that is higher. And we realize that we actually are divine. So I hope this has provided some clarity for someone. I hope this has helped somebody, because this process is hard, man. Like living as the false self, it's really hard. It's really hard. So my encouragement to you very practically is take an hour every morning. I know you might be busy. Figure out how to do it. Take an hour every day and sit and listen to the now moment. Invite God into your mess. Allow your mess to become your message. Allow your body to be repatterned and reprogrammed from the Christ awareness that you are. Begin to just practice the presence of God and listen to the now moment and watch your thoughts. Watch the insanity of how the fear comes up. Watch the insanity of how guilt, shame, condemnation comes up. Watch the insanity of everything that your mind is telling you to do, and you don't need to act on it. Just be still and know God, and allow the frequency of God. Allow these frequencies to come out of your body and your mind. When your mind gets busy during meditation is a good thing, because your only job is to see it. Because who you are is limitless, formless sentience, divine sentience that just needs to see these lower carnal operations for what they are. Because until we see them, what happens when you see something? You become separate from it. See, I'm seeing this drink right now. I'm separate from the drink. But when you drink the drink, I just became one with the drink. Okay. So every time you begin to get caught up in that fear drink that's coming up, that fear frequency, and you go, oh, and you drink it into your body, and then you try to act it out, you become one with it. So meditation is puking up that drink, allowing those frequencies to come out, and your job is to see them at the beginning. Wow, my mind is insane. I am just seeing all of these patterns, and that's what I began to do. I began to just sit there when I was going through my insanity, going through my hell, and I literally, my mind would fizzle out, ADHD, crazy shit, couldn't sit still, couldn't do anything, paranoia, depression, anxiety, unworthiness. No matter how hard I try, I'm always going to fail. Everything I did was wrong. Everybody hates me. And I would allow that stuff. It's the key word of the day, allow. We need to accept and allow what is. Accept and allow everything that's in your body to come up non-judgmentally. And then as we begin to learn how to go deeper and embody our union with God that we're one with, we put that awareness onto these patterns, and that perfect love casts out that fear. And that plowshare begins to dig up the rocks and the weeds, and we can begin to become the quantum co-creators. And then we can begin to visualize from the still place, embodying our oneness with Christ. We begin to co-create the reality that we want, and we visualize running a marathon. And then 6 weeks later, you run a marathon. You begin to see a business that is rooted on the rock, and all of a sudden, your ideal clients that you love working with start coming to you. Okay. You begin to create your reality with Christ, void of carnal attachments, striving, proving, performing, fear-based ideation, because it's coming from a higher realm. And you yield to the evolutionary flow of the times and seasons that are greater than us. Trying to measure what we have or don't have is the carnal mind operating system trying to obtain the promise before we're ready. We're in a character development process. We're in a mind renewal process. We're in a body transformation process. We are in a becoming and realizing that we are the Christ process. Okay, it takes some time. We didn't get this way in one day, so let's walk it out. Give yourself love. Give yourself grace. Be nice to yourself. Take some time. It's the biggest act of self-love that you can do, is to sit and be still and know and watch the patterns and release love to them. Because here's the other option. Have you ever tried affirmations or ever tried like positive thinking and stuff like that? All of these subconscious patterns, this is your subconscious mind that we're talking about, that we're dealing with here, the old nature. It's like a tape recorder that's just playing on repeat. You're not good enough. You're not going to make it. Blah, 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 whatever. It was all a waste. You're always a failure. If you go, no, I love myself, I'm good, you're yelling at a tape recorder. Is that ever going to change it? No. It's good that you're aware enough, that we become aware enough now, though, that we're speaking to a tape recorder, that we're speaking to these old patterns, but they'll never change because we have to go into the subconscious, into our heart, into the tape recorder and change the tape through love, through feeling it in our body. Okay? Through feeling it in our body. But if we never get still enough to feel it in our body and allow it to come out and cry that pattern out, or really see clearly that rejection pattern, that fear pattern, that unworthiness pattern, that anger pattern, if you never allow it to come up and you just try to prove yourself over it, then you're never going to be free of it. And it's just going to get worse and worse, and God is going to allow you to keep creating more and more until you fully break down. And then the full breakdown happens and we go through a Job experience like I do, and then you don't want to live anymore. And that's actually the ego, the caterpillar self, realizing defeat, and then it dies, which is great, and you dissolve in the cocoon. And this is the hardest part about the cocoon, is that from the outside, people looking at you in the cocoon going, that person's not doing anything. That person's a failure. But really, inside is where everything's happening. There is a radical transformation where that caterpillar inside is dissolving into a mucousy mess. It's losing its old caterpillar ways and structure, and it's becoming a mess for a minute. And then it's being reformed and reshaped by the higher divine evolutionary flow of God to let it break out of the cocoon and emerge its true self as a multidimensional butterfly that is riding on the winds of the Spirit, being led by the Spirit. Hey, image of God in the mirror. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. That's it. So I hope this has been fruitful for you. I hope this makes sense. This is the narrow way. What I'm describing is the narrow way that leads to life. Few find the narrow way because everybody's actually living in destruction pre the narrow way, pre the process of going through the door and embracing the cross, embracing the lake of fire where we get burned up and refined by God's love. Okay, everything in the Bible points to this. These are all parabolic, allegorical, amazing analogies that we can learn from. Okay, the false prophet and the beast thrown into the lake of fire. Well, what's that? God's love is a consuming fire. So the fire of your true self, of your God self, needs to burn up the beast. What's the beast? The beast nature, your beast ego that needs to be sacrificed in the outer court of the temple. Remember how they would sacrifice bulls and goats? It was symbolic of your beast nature, the flesh. The false programmed flesh in the world needs to be sacrificed. And the false prophet, that's the mind, the ego mind identity that's telling you you're not good enough, prophesying a bad destiny over yourself. Okay, based off what you were told when you were young. So the beast nature and the false egoic prophet need to be cast into God's love, and the awareness of God's love begins to vibrate and transmute and transform and remove those lower density patterns out of your life so that you begin to become as He is. All right, guys. I hope this has helped you. If you have any comments, concerns, feel free to reach out, make a comment. I help people. I help people through my coaching. If you feel like, man, if your heart's leaping and going, I need this, please feel free to reach out for coaching. Okay. Because sometimes it helps having somebody who has walked through this process to be able to hold a high level of consciousness, presence, and peace that begins to aid as a catalyst to vibrate out some of these patterns. And instead of it taking 4 years like it took me, you can do it in 4 months. You know what I mean? So love you guys. Have a great day. Shalom.